I'm going to show you how to make this fabulous fringe earring. We're going to make a companion for this. So it's very easy. The first thing you need to do is obviously pick some embroidery floss, and I have a whole box of floss here. This is just regular DMC 6-strand floss. So I pulled out this color, which I like, and to make my fringe, I had to determine how long it was, and as you can see, this little tag matches how long my fringe is. And how I made it very complicated, I took a little manila tag and I just snipped off the top so that it was the length that I wanted. So if you wanted really long fringe, you know, use a really big tag. If you wanted shorter fringe, you know, cut it even more or use it whichever way that you want. So now the only thing you need to know really is that you're going to start with one end sort of touching one end, and then I'm just going to wrap my embroidery floss around here. Now there's no rhyme or reason on how many times you wrap it around. It's as thick as you would like for your fringe to be. So you could wrap around here a million times if you had the patience, the time, and a long enough piece of embroidery thread, or just a couple if you wanted something a little bit thinner. So, and I totally do this guesstimating. This looks about right to me. Now here's the only other thing that's important. This was where our end ended. This is where our end ended. Does that even make any sense? But you know what I mean. And so now the other end, I want to make sure also ends on this side, not on this side. So I'm going to go ahead with my scissors and clip it. Oops, maybe I should do that in the camera, and clip it at the end. So I have one end here, and if I flip it over, you'll see one end there, so that they're both on the down side. That's what I want, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm using extraordinarily cheap and extraordinarily soft craft wire made out of aluminum. This is an 18 gauge wire. I like this because it's super cheap and it's super soft and fun to play with. It's not the greatest wire in the world, and in fact, if you wanted to make something nice, you might want to use real silver, but I like it for playing around. I'm going to cut a piece of it that I would say is maybe 8 inches long. I like to have a little extra wire, and when I use cheap stuff, I worry less about it. Now, I'm coming back to my embroidery floss. You remember, we have one end here, one end here, but this is the bottom end where those loose ends are. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to shove it so that it's between the card and the top, meaning not the side that the ends are on, the top of this, okay? And then I'm going to grab it and fold it and then remove the card. So now you can see I have this loop and my wire is in there holding everything sort of together for now, which is great. That's just what I wanted to do. But now I want to pinch it, and I can pinch it with my fingers because again, it's super soft, but I can also take some nylon coated tweezers and squeeze it down. And the nylon coating just means that it doesn't harm anything. They're nice and soft. You don't need nylon coated tweezers. You could use regular flat nose, but that just helps to squeeze it down. Okay, so that now I have this. Now I want to take an extra piece of embroidery floss, and what I want to do is I want to tie a knot as close to the top as I can muster it here, because this is what is going to make sure that your fringe doesn't fall apart when we cut it. So this is a very important step, okay? So I'm tying a knot, and then usually what I do after I tie my initial knot is I kind of scoochie scooch it up a little bit, and then I'd like to tie a double knot. If you're a nervous person, you can put a dab of glue on that if you're afraid that it won't hold. So you can see now I've done my double knot. I've got this little mop head thing. It's got a thing sticking out of it. I've made a broom, you guys. It's a miniature dollhouse broom. But what I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to take a end cap, and these are used in beading and I have 2 different kinds of end caps here. These are used in beading when you have like multiple strands of jewelry coming into something, and you can, you know, it just makes it neater. It collects all those little miscellaneous ends. So the difference is basically in the size of the opening, right? This one is a smaller opening and this one is a larger opening. So you can imagine that if you have a larger amount of fringe, you want to use a larger cap. I don't have quite enough fringe in here for this size of end cap. So the only other thing that's important is the hole on this side needs to be big enough to take the wire. So I'm going to use this smaller one, which can take 2 pieces of wire and now fits my little fringe ball kind of much more nicely, which I like. I'm also gonna put on a decorative bead. Oh, I already have one out because that's the way I roll. But again, you wanna make sure that that hole in the bead is gonna be big enough for, ooh, let's try to get that on the camera. There you go, it's gonna be big enough for your wire to get through. So this is going to fit right on there. And you don't have to use, these are pewter actually, but you don't have to use something like this. You could use regular beads of any kind. Then I'm going to take my flat nose pliers. I'm going to go ahead and grab the 2 pieces of wire, just like this. Let's see if we can't get a little bit closer, shall we? Okay, let's see. I got my 2 pieces of wire, okay? Now, I'm going to take them, and with my finger, because this is super soft, I'm bending it. This is now a 90-degree angle, okay? That's what I want. And now I have this sort of shank right here, which is exactly what I want. I'm gonna take my round nose pliers, and the phone is ringing. Excuse me for 1 second. So as I was saying, you're going to take your round nose pliers, which differ from flat nose because they're round, and then you're gonna put them on the folded over part. The folded over part, using a lot of technical terms. And then I'm going to wrap the wire around until I can wrap no further. Then I'm going to remove the pliers and I'm going to reinsert them, but on the bottom one, and I'm going to finish the wrap so that, oops, I'm going to finish the wrap so that I now have, well, I have an incredibly blurry camera that apparently doesn't understand autofocus. Let's try this again. There you go. So now I have an incredibly round loop, okay, which is exactly what I want, is that round, that nice round loop, okay? So what I'm gonna do now, because this wire is soft, and this is not like good wire working skills, this is just let's get her done using craft wire, I'm going to stick this back in here so it's holding on. Then with my fingers, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the remaining wire around that shank. Remember that shank that we created, but with the, oh, sorry, I was about to say something bad. Camera, you're killing me. Come on here, baby, let's do this. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it around that shank, like so. And you just keep wrapping until the shank basically runs out of space. And when you're out of space, then all you're gonna do is you're gonna take your, you can remove the round nose, you're gonna take your snippers, you're gonna go ahead and cut that. Make sure to hold on to those little bits, you don't want them flying around, discard them. Then you're gonna take your flat nose pliers, and you're simply going to encourage that extra little bit to lay nice and flat against the rest of the shank. Tuck it under, looking good. And then you sort of straighten it out, wiggle it around, and then you have almost a piece of fringe because it's a loop, right? Not a fringe. So that means we're just gonna take our scissors, cut right through there, snip, snip, snip. And sometimes you miss a little loop or two, so you need to go back in and fix it. There we go. Okay, so now I have my little fringe piece, and all that is left is I need to attach my earring hook. So I have a little pre-made hook here. I'm gonna go ahead and open it up with my flat nose pliers, slip that loop that we made right on there, close it up, again with my flat nose pliers. I'm just closing it, baby. Okay, and then boom, voila, I have a gorgeous fringe earring to match the other gorgeous fringe earring that I made. Cheap, easy, quick, and I'm ready to go out and partay. Thanks so much for watching.